So after taking rest, okay, and let us revise organism and population. So population ecology is important area of ecology because it links ecology to population genetics and evolution. Although the term inbreeding implies sexual reproduction, a group of individuals result from even asexual reproduction is also gradually considered a population for the purpose of ecological studies. So example of population. So there are few examples of populations. For example, all the cormorants in a wetland, rats in an abandoned dwelling, tree woods in a forest track, bacteria in a cultural plate, and lotus plant in a pond are the examples of ecology. Sorry, population. Now, what is population? A population has some of the certain attributes. A population has birth rate and death rate. In a population, these rates refer to per capita birth and death. So what is rate? Rate change in numbers or that is increased or with respect to numbers of population. So last year of lotus plant, that is last year of lotus plant, so it's 20. So total reproduction new plants added, that is 8, and so the current population is 28. So the birth rate will be the reproduction of new plants by last year plant, that is 8 by 20. And what is individual organism? But the individual organism does not have certain attributes. Individual organism may have birth rates and death rates, and individual organism does not have certain attributes. Okay, and individual organisms may have birth rate and death rate. So the death rate will be 0.4 offspring per year. Number of fruit flies. Suppose the population number of fruit flies is 40, and within 1 year the death rate will be, for death rate is not death rate, within 1 week 4 fruit flies died. So the death rate will be death of fruit flies by total number of fruit flies. So 4 by 40, that is 0.1 individual per fruit fly per week. Now the sex ratio. An individual is either a male or female, but a population has a sex ratio. And 60% of the populations are female and 40% of populations are male. What is pyramid? What is age pyramid? যদি পপুলেশনের জন্য এইজ ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন পার ইন্ডিভিজুয়ালস অফ আ গিভেন এজ অর এজ গ্রুপকে একটি গ্রাফ এর সাহায্যে প্রকাশ করা হয়, ঠিক তখনই এইজ পিরামিড বলে, তখনই তাকে এইজ পিরামিড বলে। দ্য শেপ অফ দ্য pyramids reflects the growth status of the population. Actually, I live in West Bengal and my teacher teaching in Benglish. So both Bengali and English is written in my notes. Organisms and populations. Now I'm going to read this in setting line by line. Our living world is fascinatingly diverse and amazingly complex. Yes, our living world is very diverse and it is complex. So we can try to understand its complexity by investigating process at various levels of biological organisms like macromolecules, cells, tissue, organs, individual organism, populations, communities, ecosystems, and biomes. Okay, at any level of biological organizations, we can ask two of questions. For example, when we hear the bulbul singing early morning in the garden, we may ask, how does the bird sing? And or what why does the bird sing? These how type questions seeks the mechanism behind the process, while the why type questions seeks the significance of the process. For the first questions in our example, the answer might be in terms of operations of the voice box and the vibrating bones in the bird, whereas for the second questions, the answer may lie in the bird's need to communicate with its mate during breeding seasons. When you observe nature around you with a scientific frame of mind, you will certainly come with many interesting questions of both types. Why are night blooming flowers generally white? How does the bee know which flower has nectar? Why does cactus have so many thorns? How does the chick sports recognize her own mother, and so on? Okay. NCERT is very important. So we should read NCERT very carefully. You have already learned in previous classes that ecology is a subject which deals with the interaction among the organisms between the organism and its physical means abiotic factors. Abiotic means which is non-living, non-livings like soil, water, etc. Ecology is the basic concern with the four levels of biological organizations. What are the four levels of biological organizations? First one is organisms, populations, communities, and biomes. In these chapters, we explored ecology at organismic and population and levels, organism and its environment. Ecology at organism level is especially physiological ecology, which tries to understand how different organisms are adapted to their environments in terms of not only survival but also reproduction. You may have learned in earlier classes how the rotations of our planet around the sun and the tilt of axis cause annual variations in the intensity and duration of temperature resulting in distinct season. These variations together with annual variations in precipitations, remember the precipitations includes both the rain and snow, account for the formation of major biomes such as desert, rainforest and tundra. Regional and local variations with each biomes led to the formations of variety of habitats. Major biomes of India are shown in figure 13.2. Our planet Earth, life exists not just in a few favorable habitats but even in extreme and harsh habitat, scorching Rajasthan desert, rain-soaked Meghalaya forest, deep ocean trenches, torrential streams, permafrost, snow-laden polar regions, high mountain tops, thermal springs, and stinking compost pits, to name a few. Even our intestine is a unique habitat for hundreds of species of microbes. What are the key elements that led to such variations in the physical and chemical conditions of different habitats? The most important one are temperature, water, light and soil. We must remember that the physiochemical abiotic components alone do not characterize the habitat of an organism completely. The habitat includes biotic component also, pathogenic parasite, predators, competitors of the organisms which they interact constantly. We assume that over a period of time the organism had through several selections, evolved adaptations to optimize its survivals and reproductions in its habit. Each organism has an invariably defined range of conditions that it can tolerate, diversify in the resource it utilizes, and a distinct functional role in the ecological system. All these together comprise its niches. Major abiotic factors. So, first one is the temperature. Temperature is the most important ecological relevant environmental factors. You are aware that the average temperature on land varies seasonally, decreases progressively from the equator towards the pole and from plains to the mountain tops. It ranges from sub-zero levels in the polar areas and high altitudes, that is more than 50 degrees centigrade in tropical desert in summer. There are, however, unique habitats such as thermal springs, deep sea hydrothermals, veins where average temperature exceeds 100 degrees centigrade. It is general knowledge that mango trees do not and cannot grow in temperate countries like Canada, Germany. Snow leopards are not found in Kerala forest, and tundra fish are rarely caught beyond the tropical latitude in the oceans. You can appreciate the significance of the temperature of to living organisms when you realize that it affects the kinetic of enzymes and through its metabolic activities or physiological functions of the organisms. A few organisms can tolerate and thrive in a wide range of temperature. They are called euthermals, but the vast majority of them are restricted to narrow range of temperature. Such organisms are called stenothermals. The levels of thermal tolerance of different species determines to large extent of their geographical distribution. Can you think of few euthermals and stenothermal animals and plants? In the recent year, there have been a growing concern about the increasing average global temperature. If this trend continues, would you expect the distribution range of some species to be affected? Water. Water is another the most important factor influencing the life of an organism. In fact, life on earth originates in water is as unsustainable without water. Its availability is so limited in deserts that only special adaptations can make it possible for organisms to live there. The productivity and distributions of planet is also heavily dependent on water. You might think that organisms living in oceans, lakes and rivers should not face any water related problems, but it is not true. For our aquatic organisms, the quality, chemical compositions, that is pH of water become important. Sorry. The salt concentrations measured as salinity is in a part per thousand is less than 5 in land water, that is 30 to 35 in sea, and more than 100 in hypersaline lagoons. Some of the organisms are tolerate to wide range of salinities, haline, but others are restricted to a narrow range of stenothaline. Many freshwater animals cannot live for long in seawater and vice versa because of the osmotic problems they would face. Light. Since plants produce food for photosynthesis, a process which is only possible when light is available as a source of energy, we can quickly understand the importance of light for living organisms, particularly autotrophs. Many species of small plants, herbs and shrubs growing in forests are adapted to photosynthesize optimally under very low light conditions because they are constantly overshadowed by tall canopy trees. Many plants are also depend on sunlight to meet their photoperiodic requirements for the flowering. For many animals too, light is important in that they use diurnal and seasonal variations in light intensities and durations photoperiod as a cues for timing their foraging, reproductive and migratory activities. The availability of the light on land is closely linked with that of temperature, since the sun is the source for both. But deep more than 500 meters in oceans, the environment is dark and its inhabitants are not aware of existence of celestial source of energy, that is sun. What? Then is their source of energy. The spectral quality of solar radiations is important for life. The UV components of spectrum is harmful to many organisms, while not all the color components of the visible spectrum are available for marine plants living at different depths of the oceans. Among the red, greens and brown algae that inhabit the sea, which is likely to be found in the deepest water. Why? Soil. The nature and properties of soil in different places vary. It depends on the climate, the weathering process, whether soil is transported or sedimented, and how soil development occur. Various characteristics of soil such as soil composition, grain size, aggregation determine the percolations and water holding capacity of the soils. The characteristics along with the parameters such as pH, mineral compositions and topography determine to a large extent of the vegetations in any area. This in turn dictates the type of animals that can be supported. Similarly, in aquatic environment, the sediment characteristics often determine the type of benedict animals that can thrive there. Responses to abiotic factors. Having realized that the abiotic conditions of many habitats may vary drastically in time, we now ask how do the organisms living in such habitats cope or manage with stressful conditions. But before attempting to answer this question, we should perhaps ask first why a highly variable external environment should bother organisms after all. One would expect the duration the course of millions of years of their existence. Many species would have evolved a relatively constant internal with the body environment all permits all biochemical reactions and physiological functions to proceed with maximal efficiency and thus enhance the overall fitness of the species. The consistency, for example, could be in terms of optimal temperatures and osmotic conditions of the body fluids. Ideally, then the organism should try to maintain the consistency of its internal environment, a process called homeostasis, despite varyingly the external environmental conditions that tends to upset its homeostasis. Let us take an analogy to clarify this important concept. Suppose a person is able to perform his or her best with the temperature is 25 degrees centigrade and wishes to maintain it so when it is scorching hot or freezing cold outside. It could be achieved at home, in a car, while traveling, and at workplace by using an air conditioner in summer and heaters in winter. Then is his or her performance would be always maximum regardless of the weather around him or her. Here the person's homeostasis is accomplished not the physiological but the artificial mean. How do other living organisms cope with the situations? Let us look at various possibilities in figure 13.3. And this is the figure 13.3. This one, I think. Yes. Regulate. Some organisms are able to maintain homeostasis by physiological, sometimes behavioral also means, which ensures constant body temperature, constant osmotic concentration, etc. All birds and mammals and a few lower vertebrates and invertebrate species are indeed capable of such regulations, thermoregulations and osmoregulations. Evolutionary biologists believe that success of mammal is largely due to ability to maintain a constant body temperature and thrive whether they live in Antarctica or in the Sahara Desert. The mechanism used by the most animals to regulate their body temperature are similar to those that we humans use to maintain a constant body temperatures of 37 degrees centigrade. In summer, when outside temperature is more than our body temperature, we sweat profusely. The resulting evaporate cooling, similar to what happens with the desert cooler in operators, bring down the body temperature. In winter, when the temperature is much lower than the 37 degrees centigrade, we start to shiver, a kind of exercise which produces heat and raises the body temperature. Plants, on other hand, do not have such mechanism to maintain the internal temperature. Conform. Overwhelming majority, 99% of the animals and nearly all plants cannot maintain a constant internal environment. The body temperature changes with the ambient temperature in change with that of the ambient air, water, osmotic concentrations. The animals and plants are similar as simply conformers. Considering the benefit of the constant internal environments to the organisms, we must ask why these conformers had not evolved to become regulators. Recall the human analogy to use above much as they like. How many people can really afford an air conditioner? Many simply sweat it out and resign themselves to suboptimal performance in hot summer month. The thermoregulations is energetically expensive for many organisms. This is particularly true for small animals like shivers and hummingbirds. Heat loss or heat gain is a function of surface area. Since some animals have large surface area relative to their volume, they tend to lose body heat very fast when it is cold outside. Then they have to expend much energy to generate body heat through metabolism. And this is the main reason why very small animals are rarely found in polar regions. During the course of evolution, the cost and benefit of maintaining a constant internal environment are taken into consideration. Some species which evolve the ability to regulate but only a limited range of environmental conditions beyond which they simply conform. If the stressful external conditions are localized or remain only for a short duration, the organisms has two other alternatives for their survival. Migrate. The organisms can move only temporarily from stressful habit to more hospitable areas and return when stressful period is over. In summer analogy, the strategy is likely a person moving from Delhi to Shimla for duration of summer. Many animals, particularly birds, during winter undertaken long distance migrate to more hospitable areas. Every winter, the famous Kilado National Park, Bharatpur in Rajasthan hosts thousands of migratory birds coming from Siberia and other extremely cold northern region. Suspend. In bacteria, fungi, and lower plants, various kind of thick-walled pores are formed with the which help them to survive in unfavorable conditions. They germinate on availability of suitable environment in higher plant seeds and some other vegetable reproductive structures serve as a mean to tide over periods of stressful. Besides helping in dispersal, they germinate to form new plants under favorable moisture and temperature conditions. They do so by reducing their metabolic activities and going to state of dormancy. In animals, the organisms, if unavailable to migrate, might avoid the stress by escaping in time. The familiar case of bear going into hibernation during winter is an example of escape in time. Some snails and birds go to estivations to avoid summer-related problem heat and desiccation. Under unfavorable conditions, many zooplankton species in lakes and ponds are known to enter diapause, a state of suspend development. So, up to this. Next day, I will try to complete this all because I have to sleep at time and I have to wake up at 6 a.m. Then I have class from 7 a.m. So, thank you. So, up to this, I have read So let me find my pen. So today I've already read chemistry, then physics, and then biology. Thank you.